Ready?
I don't know much about it.
Oh boy. By the way, Kathy, Greg, you're not from.
I know. You can't
Watch
talk.
them crush each other.
But we were ex-partners. So we saw this relationship.
All right, Tim, go.
All right, on that note. Ladies and gentlemen, today, here, I want you to know a fact. 1 in 31 people in the United States is locked up or incarcerated. 1 out of 31 people. 1 out of every 31 people is locked up or incarcerated. That is the system, the status quo that we were talking about. So we're going to realize how bad this situation is, and how about throwing away people into jail for nonviolent offenses makes the system worse. I'm going to explain that in just a second about the harsh reality and how this is ineffective, but first let me get a little refutation. You know, they said if someone broke the law, they must have to pay. Well, we agree. That's why we're talking about giving back to society for community service, because that is paying. Because when you counsel a child and say, I did marijuana, and that's a bad thing because that's illegal and that's wrong, and you tell that to a child so they don't do it, that's effective, and that stops more kids from doing that. And we also talk about housing more criminals, right? That was their answer over here. Just build more prisons. Well, look at this situation when you just throw people away, you just throw people. What about rehabilitation? That's what we're talking about. And that situation over here is the prison industrial complex. That's what this side is on. Is that their only solution is just to build more prisons and lock away more people. 90% of dollars in America are spent on incarceration, not on rehabilitation. And we think community service is a great way to rehabilitate people, because they see the crime that they did in the community, they see the faces that they hurt, and the faces that they hurt are actually being helped for once by those people that are affected. So first, let me get into my point of positive matter about harsh and ineffective reality. So why is this harsh? Well, the justice system is supposed to be effective, right? It's supposed to make people better. It's supposed to reform them, right? So when we say that this is harsh, we mean that this is a vicious cycle, right? Because a person that, as Cody said earlier, that's doing marijuana or doing some other kind of minor deed that's still criminal, right? When that person is put in a situation where there's murderers and rapists and burglars and people that have assaulted and hurt other people, those people get together, and that person is now in a different situation where they learn bad things from those people and they're toughened up. And that person needs reform, right? Because it's not that, go ahead.
From what I got, you're basically saying that these people aren't real criminals, or they're not up to the speed of people's more heinous crimes. So why are you so worried about them going to prison and learning all this stuff if they're just good people anyway? Well,
they are criminals because crime is defined by breaking the law. So obviously we agree with that. But you don't have a speeding ticket, for instance. If you're going 2 miles over on Baratania, you don't go to jail, right? You don't go to prison, right? Because we say you can just pay a ticket. In the same way, we can say non-violent criminal offenses, you can do community service instead of going to jail. And the same way that felonies, you have to serve prison time, or if you rob a bank with a gun, you're going to have to serve time in a federal penitentiary because that's a federal crime. So there's different avenues that we don't believe that we're going to throw these people in the same situation, in the same areas, with the violent, worst people in society. So we're saying that this is a vicious cycle that's going to start. Right? And these people, for these minor instances, are going to have to leave their school, they're going to have to leave their job, and why? Because they were smoking marijuana at a party. We don't believe that that's a good thing. We believe that if you commit them to cleaning up the sidewalk, or paint from graffiti, or cutting bushes, or mentoring a child, that's much more effective. And they're forced to do 100 hours of that. That's a lot of time that they have to commit every Saturday for months, that they have to say, boy, it's Saturday, I have to go down and do 10 hours today cleaning the bench, cleaning the park, making my society a better place. That's punishment to them, and we think that's effective. And they don't have to leave their school, they don't have to lose their job, because they're locked away in a jail. And that's a good thing for something like smoking marijuana or some of these minor offenses that we've defined. Let me, Craig, no, just a second. So we don't want this prison mentality. That's how about this vicious cycle will work. So, and what about effectiveness? That's our second point. My second point. The recidivism rate for nonviolent offenses is really low, right? So the likelihood of this person committing this crime again is really low, right? Someone that's robbing and to feed their meth habit and murdering people, you know, and killing people, or you know, assaulting people, stealing and robbing banks. Those are people that are doing the crime over and over and over again, and it usually takes many, many times before police get them. Someone that's doing a nonviolent offense, like smoking weed at a party, and the cops bust it and they arrest them, that's not something that's really harming society over and over again. And if we want to teach them a lesson, we can teach them in other ways without throwing them in jail with the worst people.
Amen.
So and rehabilitation is a part of that, right? We don't want to lock away these people We want to educate them in the community. We think counseling the kids will be much more effective. So, to cap up what we said, Cody talked about taxpayers saving money in this economic time is so important. Well, when Oregon, where I'm coming from, is letting felons out of jail because we don't have enough room. He talked about improving the community. I talked about this being harsh and ineffective, and we think that this system is much better, and that's why we think you'll go with us today. Thank you.